So if you are transitioning from Sony Vegas or iMovie or Final Cut Pro to DaVinci Resolve and you want to learn how to do a text animation like other YouTubers use in YouTube videos, then I'm going to show you how to do that. In my last video, I showed you how to do it on the timeline in DaVinci Resolve. So go ahead and watch that if you have not already to get familiar with how to do this in the first place. So let's go ahead and hop into Fusion from the edit page by clicking on this button right here. And there you have it. This is the Fusion page. Okay. So what we have here is pretty crazy to look at, but don't get too overwhelmed. We're not going to go over everything, that's for sure. We're just going to go over how to make that text animation that we did before, but in here. And so we have our footage, right? This guy is on a laptop and it's just a nice B-roll footage of him typing, so that's pretty nice. And so the node, the media 1 in node, is connected to media out 1 node. Media in 1 node is the footage itself, and the media out node is going to be your result. So anything that you affect this footage with, whether it's a text that you put over him, or if you colorize it by making him brighter, or if you crop him out by just getting his face or getting his laptop or something, anything that you change to this footage will be resulted, it will show as a result in the media out node that we have right here, which you can see on this viewer 2. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick just so that you understand a little bit better. So I'm going to click on media in 1 and I'm going to add a text to there, and then I'm going to add a color, and then I'm going to do a mask. Okay, and so that's not where I wanted that to go. I'm going to mask this out, and then I got the text right here, and then I'm going to make this really saturated. Okay, that's a little stupid. Okay, let's do that. Sure. So we made those changes, right? And so it doesn't show up right here. And the reason why is because we're only seeing the original footage, And so we see that officially on media out in the viewer 2 right here where it's cropped out. Now, the reason why we see it cropped out in viewer 1, even though it is still the original footage, that's because we have this connected to it. Anything that is connected to this node will show up right here, which is going to be this rectangle, the crop. Okay, so hopefully that's not too overwhelming to learn about if you have never edited before. But if you have edited before and are just new to the Fusion page in Resolve, new to Resolve in general, then this hopefully makes a little bit of sense to you. But yeah, anything that we have connected to this media in 1 node, which is going to be the text, the color, and the rectangle, they're all connected. Anything that's coming into the node itself from this blue line or after the media in 1 node, that's going out from here to the right of that, the merge, the text, the color corrector, that's going to show up right here. Okay, grab this text icon by clicking that and then dragging it over. You have your text right here. We can press 1 on the keyboard and see it in viewer 1 right there. It says it's opposite day. And so we want to connect this to the footage in viewer 2. And in order to connect that to the footage, we just have to click on this icon right here, click and hold, and then this yellow line will show up, and then you connect that to the square connected to the media in 1 node right here, and then it creates a merge. Okay, so let me do that one more time. Click on that, hold it down, hover it over the square, make sure to hold it, okay, and then let go of the click, and then it creates a merge 1, and now the text is over the footage like we want it to be. And now we can click on merge 1, click on 1 on the keyboard, and then we can see it on here too, on the viewer 1 on the left side. So now what we can do is move this text plus down, okay, by simply clicking on this red arrow right here. You see this red arrow? So that's going to be the transform tool, okay, to move it around however you want to. It's the same way of doing it in here, which is going to be the same exact way on the timeline, okay? but it's even easier when you just click on this arrow. And so we can click down on the arrow, you can click and hold and move it down, okay? So it's really, really easy to do it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and fit that there and then move it all the way back down. Okay, perfect. And again, you can also do it in here if you're more comfortable doing it like this instead. Either way works. Okay, perfect. Now we want to animate that size, the scale of the text like we did before. Click on the inspector in the top right corner. Click on that. Go to the text tab right here to the left of the layout tab. Click on the diamond, which is next to the size parameter, okay? Click on that guy right there. It's kind of hard to see that, but click on that. It'll turn orange or red, whatever color that you see it as. And then click on the 20 over here, which is going to be the 20th frame, okay, 20 frames ahead. And now click on that icon again, okay? And then we are going to click on the 40 to go to the 40th frame, 20 more frames ahead, and then click on that keyframe one more time, okay? So hopefully that made sense. We're basically just creating keyframes that are 20 frames apart, and you know that they are enabled when this diamond is red or orange. And to move between keyframes, click on the arrow next to that diamond, like so. Now we're at the middle keyframe, and now we're at the beginning keyframe, the start of the whole thing. And so what we want the text to do is basically scale up and then back down into this standard size that it is at right now. So how we're going to do that is start with the first keyframe and do one step at a time. Go from the first keyframe to the next one, okay? One keyframe at a time. Scale this all the way down to 0. That's where we want it to start, okay? That's how we want it to begin. And then we will go to the middle keyframe, and this is going to be the middle of the animation. And what we want to do when it's at this keyframe is scale it up just a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much, okay? And then the last keyframe is actually exactly where it should be. The size is exactly what we want it to be at, 0.08, which is standard, okay? And so now if we did this correctly, which we did, we will have this text scale up and then scale down to how we want it to be, to the size that we want it to be at. Okay, let's go to frame 0 right there, and let me close out the inspector. Let me bring this down like so. Hopefully you can copy what I just did there, and then go to this icon here to the viewer, and now we're gonna watch this in real time after it's done rendering. It's a little bit slow, but that's just because it's lasting for 40 frames, which is longer than 1 second. That is what a lot of YouTubers use for their text animations when they're doing custom captions or closed captions or subtitles. So if you want to learn how to do that, there you go. That's how you do it. Now I can show you another way to animate this. Instead of animating the scale, we can animate the movement instead. So it's going to be easy to do that. Let's say we finished it up, but we want to do that instead. So you can reset that animation completely by double clicking on the size right here. Okay, so make sure you have opened up Inspector again, and then click on the size, double click on that, and then it will reset the whole entire animation that we just did. Now go to 0 again, and what we're going to do for this animation is simple. We're going to have it out of frame like this, and then we're going to scale it up like that. So it's going to be out of frame, scale up, out of frame, scale up. Okay, that's all we're going to do. You've probably seen some YouTubers do that quite a bit. I know that I have. So go to layout, okay, which is going to be next to the text tab right there. So go to layout and then click on the icon that is next to the center X and the Y. Okay, let's go and click on 30 right there. Let's go to 30 frames, or actually no, let's go to 20. I want to go to 20. I like 20. Go to 20 frames, okay, and then we will click on that keyframe once again. Perfect. Now that we have that second keyframe selected, what we can do is click on the arrow like we did before. That will bring us to the first keyframe, and where we want it to be at this point in time is going to be below the frame, right? So we're just going to move it down by clicking on this arrow and moving it down. Or we can do it right here in the y-axis on the inspector, move it down. And it's really nice because it's like highlighted right here so you can see exactly where it's at even when it's out of frame. I like that. I don't think Sony Vegas or iMovie or Final Cut can do that, but maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So now that it is out of frame, and the second keyframe has it in frame, it's perfect. That's where we want it to be. It's the easiest text animation that we can do on Fusion. Go ahead and fit that to screen by clicking on this arrow where it says fit and then fit to screen. And in your case, it'll be like at 50% or 200% or whatever the f it's at. Okay, sorry. And so now we want to just kind of watch that over. So bingo, look at that. That's pretty cool, right? A little nice animation there, and we can make it faster. We can make it come out like at 10 frames if we want to. Do you want me to show you how to move the keyframe really quickly? Okay, I'll show you. So it's really easy. Go to keyframes right here. Okay, click on that, and then you'll see this keyframes like tab open up. Click on these arrows right here. Okay, and then that will fit this whole thing together so that we can see it better. Click on the text one. That's the same exact thing that we see right here, correct? So text one, it's the same. All right, now what we can do is kind of zoom in a little bit by clicking and holding on the top part here where the numbers are, if you see where I'm doing that from. Hopefully you do. And we're just gonna kind of move this playhead over to frame 20 on this spot here. Hopefully you are following me so far. And then what we're going to do is actually move this playhead to say 10, right? Like we wanted it to be at. That's where we want this keyframe to actually end instead of 20, because we're like, wait a minute, it's kind of slow. It's a little bit too slow for me. I want to make it faster. So we're going to move that keyframe to 10 frames to make it faster. And so this is where it's at. The keyframe is obviously past that playhead right here. And so now click on that keyframe and then hold it and drag over to the playhead. Okay. And now we can move this over to 0 and it comes up a lot faster. Hopefully that was not too complicated for you to understand and follow along with. If so, I will go over this more thoroughly in another video. But you know, that keyframes tool, this guy is really helpful for changing the timing of your animations. It's just a matter of doing it over and over again so that you get used to it and not like scared of it. But that's the cool animation that we just did right there that a lot of YouTubers use. And so now what I want to show you is one more animation, and it's going to be the third animation that we did on the timeline in the previous video. So what we're going to do is go to frame 20. Okay, we're at frame 20, and now we want to select that keyframe diamond again. And so now the text is where we want it to be at, right? So if we want it to be there and we want it to be like up and down, so we want this text to come up and then down like that instead of just up. All right, up and down. So oops, what we're gonna do is, now that we have our 3 keyframes, we got number 1, we got number 2, we got number 3. And number 2 and 3 are the same exact spots, but we want 3 to be in that same position that it ended up at. And now at number 2, the middle keyframe, we want this to be a little bit higher, a little bit above where it was at before. Okay, a little bit above where it's going to land. So now it should go up and then down like so, and it does. So that's awesome, right? That's what we wanted right there. So if you are doing that for the first time, instead of like adding to those keyframes, what you can do is grab another Text Plus node, connect it up. Okay, we're going to move it down, and then we are going to click on that keyframe, and then we're going to go to 20, or no, sorry, 10 or 11, whatever. 10 is good. And then click on the keyframe and then go to 20, click on the keyframe again. And now we want to do the same thing, right? So it's just static, okay? So now we want to move it out of frame at the first keyframe. So move that down out of frame like that. Go to the middle keyframe. And at this point in time in the animation, we want it to be a little bit above where it's going to land. And at the last keyframe is where it will land, which is going to be right here, a little bit below where it was just at in the middle keyframe. So now it goes up and then down, okay? Up and then down. So if you are creating that from scratch, that's how you would do it. Very easy. So hopefully this wasn't too overwhelming to watch. I am going to make it easier to see this animation just in case it's hard for you to notice what is going on. Pretty cool, right? I like it. It's awesome. All right, I hope you learned something today. If you did, awesome. If you are confused about something and you need to ask me a question, I will answer that to the best of my ability in the comments down below. And in the next video, I'm going to show you two different ways of cropping out your footage, which is really easy to do. And a lot of YouTubers do that. And it's going to be different than in Final Cut or Sony Vegas or iMovie. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's different. And I will see you guys in the next video.